Shakedown.
Shakedown.
A mafia shakedown. No weapons were found during the shakedown.
The new system is in its shakedown phase.
Shaken.
Shaken. How's Jacob? Pretty shaken up, but he'll be all right.
He was badly shaken after the attack.
Shakeout.
Shakeout.
Shaker.
Shaker.
An attractive set of shaker chairs.
A salt shaker.
A shaker chair.
Shakespearean.
Shakespearean.
Shakespearean language.
A famous Shakespearean actor.
Shake up.
Shake up.
A big shake-up of the education system.
Shaky.
Shaky.
A shaky voice. Grandad was a little shaky on his feet.
My knowledge of history is a little shaky.
Shaky evidence.
Shaky foundations.
Shale.
Shale.
Shale gas.
Shale gas. Shall.
Shall.
Shall I open the window? Shall we say 6 o'clock then?
What shall I get for dinner?
We shall be away next week.
I shall have to be careful. I've never liked her, and I never shall.
We shall have finished by Friday. The truth shall make you free.
I said you could go, and so you shall. All payments shall be made in cash. Shallot.
Shallot.
Shallow.
Shallow.
A shallow river. The lake is quite shallow. The shallow end of the pool.
Place the meat in a shallow dish. A shallow argument.
If he's only interested in your looks, that shows how shallow he is.
He lay there unconscious, breathing shallowly.
Shallows.
Shallows.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalt.
Shout.
Shalwar kameez.
Shalwar kameez.
Sham.
Sham.
The elections were a complete sham. It all turned out to be sham and hypocrisy.
A sham marriage.
She's not ill, she's only shamming.
Shaman.
Shaman.
Shamble.
Shamble.
The old man shambled out of the room, muttering to himself.
Shambles.
Shambles.
The meeting was a shambles from start to finish.
The economy is in a complete shambles.
My house is in absolute shambles. Shambolic.
Shambolic.
The government's shambolic efforts to deal with the crisis.
Shame.
Shame.
She's failed her test again. What a shame.
It's a shame that you have to leave so soon. What a shame we missed the wedding.
It's a shame about the weather. It's a shame to cover this beautiful table with a tablecloth.
I can't imagine why they cancelled your show, Tracy. That's such a shame.
It was a crying shame that they lost the game.
He felt a deep sense of shame.
Maria blushed with shame.
To her shame, she gained back all the weight she'd lost.
He's brought shame on the whole family.
I bow my head in shame when I think of how I treated her.
There's no shame in saying, I don't know. There's no shame in saying, I don't know. How could you do such a thing? Have you no shame?
Shame on you, Fred. I thought you were my friend.
His cooking puts mine to shame. It shames me to say it, but I lied.
He felt shamed and humiliated by the treatment he had received. His wife shamed him into handing the money back.
Their trading record shamed other companies.
She had shamed her family name.
Shamefaced.
Shamefaced.
Connor looked a little shamefaced.
Shameful.
Shameful.
It's shameful the way some people treat their pets.
A shameful family secret.
Shameless.
Shameless.
The shameless way he lied to us.
She shamelessly took advantage of him.
Chamois.
Chamois.
Shampoo.
Shampoo.
What kind of shampoo do you use?
A bottle of shampoo.
$21 for a shampoo, cut, and blow dry.
She showered and shampooed her short dark hair.
Shamrock.
Shamrock.
Shandy.
Shandy.
Shanghai.
Shanghai.
I got shanghaied into organising the kids' party.
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La.
Shank.
Shank.
A hammer shank.
Lamb shanks.
Shan't.
Shan't.
I shan't see you again.
Shanty.
Shanty.
Workers were living in tents and shanties.
Shantytown.
Shantytown.
Shape.
Shape.
What shape is the table?
You can recognise a tree by the shape of its leaves. The dining room was square in shape.
His battered old hat had completely lost its shape. A silver pin in the shape of a large bird.
The plants grow in every shape and size.
The children cut out shapes from the piece of cardboard.
The wheel had been bent out of shape. For an old car, it's in pretty good shape.
The economy is in worse shape now than it was last year.
Kaplan seemed to be in better shape than either of us. I was feeling totally out of shape. I've got to get into shape before summer.
She's bought an exercise bike to keep in shape. Mel was in no shape to drive home after the party.
Some of them lack experience, but will soon knock them into shape.
Computers have completely changed the shape of our industry.
This new technique is the shape of things to come. An idea was beginning to take shape in his mind.
Help came in the shape of a $10,000 loan from his parents.
We will not tolerate racism in any shape or form.
A dark shape moved behind them.
People's political beliefs are shaped by what they see in the papers.
Shape the dough into small balls.
An L-shaped living room.
You kids had better shape up, because I'm in no mood to fool around.
Ken's plans for the business are shaping up nicely. Immigration is shaping up as a major issue in the campaign.
It's shaping up to be a pretty big party.
Shapeless.
Shapeless.
A shapeless dress.
Shapely.
Shapely.
She had long, shapely legs.
Shapewear.
Shapewear.
The Shard London Bridge.
Shard.
A shard of pottery.
Share.
Share.
We don't have enough books, so you'll have to share.
The three of us shared a taxi. I have an office that I share with some other teachers.
As a kid, he'd never share his toys.
Will you share your fries with me?
They shared the cake between them.
On his death, his property was shared out between his children.
We share the responsibility for the children.
I own the house, but we share the bills.
We all share some of the blame for the accident.
Other parents share her belief in the importance of reading.
I believe my view is widely shared.
Stubbornness was a characteristic he shared with his mother.
Students were able to share their experiences.
Would you like to share your feelings with a group?
I'm not ready to share my life with anyone.
His daughters did not share in his happiness.
We've got shares in Allied Chemicals.
I gave them my share of the bill and left.
A share in the profits.
I do my share of the housework.
You've sure had your share of problems, haven't you?
He'd had more than his fair share of adventure.
Don't worry, you'll get your fair share.
Employers are always given a share in decision-making.
Sharecropper.
Sharecropper.
Shareholder.
Shareholder.
Shareholders have been told to expect an even lower result next year.
Shareholding.
Shareholding.
In 1992, United Distillers acquired a 75% shareholding in the company.
Share index.
Share index.
Share out.
Share out.
Shareware.
Shareware.
Sharia.
Sharia.
Shark.
Shark.
Sharks were circling around our boat.
Sharp.
Sharp.
Make sure you use a good sharp knife.
Its teeth are razor sharp.
We came to a sharp bend in the road. Take a sharp left after the church.
A sharp increase in prices. A sharp fall in unemployment. Sharp differences of opinion.
There is a sharp distinction between domestic and international politics.
His honesty is in sharp contrast to some other politicians.
I felt a sharp pain in my back.
I was left with a sharp sense of disappointment.
A sharp rebuke.
John's tone was sharp. The boss can be very sharp with people when she's busy.
A journalist with an extremely sharp mind.
Keep a sharp eye on the kids at all times.
Make sure your pencils are sharp before we begin the test.
A sharp cry of pain.
A sharp intake of breath.
Sharp cheddar cheese.
Add mustard to give the dressing a sharper taste.
Todd looked really sharp in his tux. A sharp suit.
Sharp features. Her mother had a sharp little nose. The outlines of the trees were sharp and clear.
A sharp wind blew across the lake.
He's been guilty of sharp practice in the past.
We were always on the sharp end of clients' complaints. We're meeting at 1:30 sharp. You turn sharp right at the crossroads. If you look sharp, you might catch him before he leaves for London.
Sharp-eared.
Sharp-eared.
Sharpen.
Sharpen.
Anne sharpened her pencil and got out her homework.
A series of attacks have sharpened fears of more violence.
The course will help students sharpen their writing skills.
Sharpener.
Sharpener.
Sharp-eyed.
Sharp-eyed.
My sharp-eyed mother had already spotted him.
Sharpish.
Sharpish.
We'd better leave pretty sharpish if we want to catch that bus.
Sharply.
Sharply.
Prices have risen sharply over the last few months.
His politics have moved sharply to the right. What do you mean by that? Paul asked sharply.
A sharply critical report.
Graham looked up sharply, startled by a noise behind him.
Emily drew in her breath sharply.
Opinion is sharply divided.
His beliefs and values contrast sharply with his father's.
Sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter.
Sharp-tongued.
His sharp-tongued wife. Sharp-witted.
Sharp-witted.
Shat. Shat. Shatter.
Shatter.
The plate hit the floor and shattered into tiny bits.
The explosion shattered the building.
A tragic accident shattered her dreams of Olympic glory.
A few weeks in a tiny damp room soon shattered his illusions about university life.
People whose lives have been shattered by war. The silence was shattered by a warning shout.
Shattered.
Shattered.
I wasn't just disappointed. I was absolutely shattered.
By the time we got home, we were both shattered.
Shattering.
Shattering.
His mother's death was a shattering blow.
I've had a shattering day.
Shatterproof.
Shatterproof.
Shave.
Shave.
He hadn't shaved for days.
Brian had cut himself shaving. She shaved her legs and underarms. Shave thin strips of cheese over the pasta.
I've decided to shave off my beard.
I had to shave a few millimetres off the bottom of the door to make it shut.
She shaved half a second off the world record.
He looked as if he needed a shave.
I'll just have a shave before we go.
Phew, that was a close shave.
Shaven.
Shaven.
His shaven head.
Shaver.
Shaver.
He uses an electric shaver.
Shaving brush.
Shaving brush.
Shaving cream.
Shaving cream.
Shavings.
Shavings.
A pile of wood shavings on the floor.
Shawl.
Shawl.
She.
She.
You could always ask Beth. She's got plenty of money.
I saw you talking to that girl. Who is she?
What did she say when you told her?
She was carrying over 1,500 passengers.
What a cute puppy. Is it a he or a she?
She.
She.
A she-goat.
A she-devil.
She or he?
She or he.
If any student witnesses a crime, he should contact campus police immediately.
She-butter.
She-butter.
Sheaf.
Sheaf.
He laid a sheaf of documents on the desk.
Shear.
Shear.
Her long fair hair had been shorn. Though shorn of some of its powers, the party remains in control.
The left wing had been almost completely sheared off.
Shearer.
Shearer.
Shears.
Shears.
Sam was trimming the hedge with a pair of garden shears.
Sheath.
Sheath.
His sword was back in its sheath.
The wire is covered by an outer plastic sheath.
She was wearing a plain black sheath.
Sheath.
Sheathe.
He sheathed his sword.
The grassy hills were sheathed in mist.
Sheathing.
Sheathing.
Sheath knife. Sheath knife. Sheaves.
Sheaves.
Shebang.
Shebang.
It's a big project, and she's in charge of the whole shebang.
Shebeen.
Shebeen.
Shed.
Shed.
A tool shed. A cattle shed. The company is planning to shed about a quarter of its workforce. The magazine is desperately trying to shed its old-fashioned image.
A diet to help you shed pounds.
Recent research has shed light on the causes of the disease. Investigators hope to shed light on what started the fire.
The lamp shed a harsh yellow light.
The trees were starting to shed their leaves.
As it grows, a snake will regularly shed its skin.
He strode across the bathroom, shedding wet clothes as he went.
A lorry shed its load of steel bars on the M25.
Too much blood has already been shed in this conflict.
She had not shed a single tear during the funeral.
Sheed.
Sheed.
She'd already gone when we got there.
She'd like to come with us.
Shed load.
Shed load.
They've got shell loads of stuff for sale.
Sheen.
Sheen.
Her hair had a lovely coppery sheen.
Sheep. Sheep.
Sheep were grazing on the hillside.
A sheep farmer.
Tourists were led around like sheep from shrine to souvenir shop.
Sheep dip.
Sheep dip.
Sheepdog.
Sheepdog.
Sheepish.
Sheepish.
Sam looked a bit sheepish.
A sheepish grin.
She smiled sheepishly.
Sheep pen.
Sheep pen.
Sheepskin.
Sheepskin.
A sheepskin coat.
Shear.
Shear.
The sheer size of the country makes communications difficult.
I'll never forget the look of sheer joy on her face.
Sheer hypocrisy.
Sheer stockings.
Cliffs which rose sheer from the sea.
The boat sheered away and headed out to sea.
Sheet.
Sheet.
I'll go and find you some clean sheets and blankets.
White cotton sheets.
A sheet of paper with names and numbers on it.
A sheet of glass.
A sheet of ice covered the lake.
Sheets of flame shot into the air.
The rain was coming down in sheets.
Sheet lightning.
Sheet lightning.
Sheet metal.
Sheet metal.
Sheet music.
Sheet music.
Shake.
Chic.
Shakedom.
Sheikdom.
Sheila.
Sheila.
Shekel.
Shekel.
Shelf.
Shelf.
Put it back on the top shelf.
Shelves of books.
Supermarket shelves.
The amount of shelf space available.
The album stayed on the shelf for several years until it was finally released.
Shelf life.
Shelf life.
Shell.
Shell.
Never buy eggs with cracked shells. Peanuts roasted in their shells.
A snail shell.
The children were collecting shells on the beach.
We ran for cover as shells dropped all around us.
An exploding mortar shell. The burnt-out shell of a nightclub.
I had hoped that university would bring him out of his shell.
She started to come out of her shell a little.
The army has been shelling the town since yesterday.
Josie was shelling peas in the kitchen.
If you want the repairs done right, you'll have to shell out at least $800.
She ended up shelling out for 2 rooms.
Sheel.
Sheel.
Shellac.
Shellac.
Shellfire.
Shellfire.
A hospital badly damaged by shell fire.
Shellfish.
Shellfish.
Shell game.
Shell game.
Critics called the proposal a shell game.
Shelling. Shelling.
The shelling of villages.
Weeks of heavy shelling.
Shell shock.
Shell shock.
Shell suit.
Shell suit.
Shelter.
Shelter.
They are in need of food and shelter. We reached the shelter of the caves.
They were standing under the shelter of a huge tree. The men took shelter in a bombed-out farmhouse.
All around me, people were running for shelter.
An old hut gave shelter from the storm.
A shelter for battered women.
A homeless shelter.
An animal shelter.
Collins was arrested for sheltering enemy soldiers.
Plant herbs next to a wall to shelter them from the wind.
We sat in the shade, sheltering from the sun.